Good evening and welcome to All 24 News. I'm Karim Fazakri, your host for tonight's World News program. Let's delve into the latest stories. 700 killed in 24 hours. What unfolded in Shujaia, Jabalia and Khan Yunis? Tune in for the urgent details. Also ahead, a breaking point. How will the ongoing clashes shape the future after the Palestinian resistance takes on 6 Zionists and destroys vehicles in the process? Detention centers turned into cemeteries for the living. Palestinian Authority speaks out and ICC prosecutor vows intensified investigations into occupation crimes. What's unfolding? That's next. And President Tebboun's award ceremony sparks big announcements. What's inside the game-changing measures for the media? Stay tuned for the full scoop after the break. Hello again and welcome back to the program. Fast and in-depth look at the unfolding events in the occupied Palestinian territories. And this is just in. Palestinian media reported that there were martyrs and wounded in a Zionist bombing of the gate of Kamal Adwan Hospital in the northern Gaza Strip. The Director General of Health in the Gaza Strip said yesterday that the Israeli occupation army fired a missile in front of Kamal Adwan Hospital, which is the same thing it did with the hospitals it previously targeted. The occupation aircraft targeted a house in Rafah, south of the Gaza Strip, resulting in 15 deaths and more than 100 injuries on Sunday evening. In conjunction with the violent bombardment launched by the occupation aircraft, sirens sounded in Kesefim in the middle of the Gaza Strip, following the rocket attacks launched by the Palestinian resistance in response to the massacres against civilians. In related news, the Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza reported a new massacre in the Jabalia camp by Zionist forces, resulting in dozens of Palestinian casualties. The intense bombing targeted residential areas, including Beit Lahia, leading to numerous deaths and injuries. Warplanes further attacked the Zaytun and Shujaia neighborhoods in Gaza City, causing additional casualties. The Shujaia neighborhood witnessed extensive destruction due to heavy bombardment. And in Khan Yunis, over 60 Palestinians were killed in a Zionist missile attack on eastern and central areas. The town of Al-Karara also faced bombing, resulting in numerous casualties transferred to Nasser and European hospitals. Zionist occupation aircraft launched intense airstrikes on Deir al-Balah camp in central Gaza, resulting in the martyrdom of dozens of Palestinians. The occupation forces also targeted Palestinian homes with artillery, particularly during the early morning hours. The Palestinian news agency reported a death toll of more than 700 Palestinians in the past 24 hours due to ongoing Zionist aggression. Here's Osama Ayadi with the story.
The Zionist occupation's air forces renewed their violent assault on Palestinians in the Gaza Strip as part of their so-called military operation on unarmed civilians. The Zionist forces destroyed an entire residential square in the city of Deir al-Balah in an instant, resulting in a new massacre in which dozens of martyrs died, in addition to the massive destruction of homes and infrastructure.
They
bombed our homes, killed our children, destroyed us and displaced us here. And now they have come out with a new decision for us, to work with the black system. We do not want these blacks. We do not know what it means.
In Deir el-Balah camp in the central Gaza Strip, cameras monitor the effects of the bombing and destruction that affected large residential areas inhabited by civilians, most of whom were women and children, who were taking shelter inside, while the search is still ongoing for missing people under the rubble. Direct targeting of neighborhoods and infrastructure in the city of Deir el-Balah did not even exclude Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital, where residents took refuge from the intense and continuous bombings.
They asked the north to move to the south because it is a safe area. There is no safe area in Gaza Strip, whether it is Rafah, Khan Yunis or Gaza. There is no safe area in the Gaza Strip.
The last 24 hours of the Zionist onslaught on Palestinians have left at least 700 people martyred. More are believed to be under the rubble as rescue teams struggle to cope with these endless catastrophes which take place under international silence. Despite the daily genocides and war crimes, international communities and organizations remain silent. The suffering of Palestinians is growing day by day. Babies being targeted, children killed, and women not even being able to say goodbye before being cold-bloodedly shelled.
As of Sunday, the health authorities in Gaza reported a death toll of 15,523 Palestinians since the Zionist raids began on October 7th. The ministry spokesman Ashraf al-Qudra stated in a press conference that the number of injuries during the same period reached 41,316 Palestinians. He emphasized that 70% of the victims in this aggression were women and children.
The death toll from the Israeli aggression against the Gaza Strip since October 7 until this moment rises to 15,523 martyrs and the injury of 41,316 citizens with various injuries. 70% of the victims of this aggression are children and women.
The spokesman for the Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza has confirmed that the Zionist occupation's targeting of Palestinian civilians within the Strip is expanding. He noted that since Friday morning alone, the bodies of 316 people have been recovered, with 664 wounded.
The Israeli occupation continues to expand the targeting of civilians. On the third day after the end of the humanitarian truce, it has not left a single inch in the Gaza Strip without bombing. During the past hours, the Israeli occupation has committed dozens of terrible and major massacres in all governorates of the Gaza Strip, killing and wounding hundreds of people. In the context of Israeli violations against the health system, they are beyond description and brutality, resulting in the death of 281 health staff and the injury of hundreds of them. In addition, the Israeli occupation targeted and destroyed 56 ambulances during their work and killed the medical staff and the wounded inside them. In addition, the Israeli occupation has destroyed 56 health institutions and put 20 hospitals out of service. In addition, 46 primary care centers in the Gaza Strip have been put out of service.
The Palestinian resistance reported eliminating 6 Zionist soldiers east of Johr al-Dik in the Gaza Strip using anti-personnel devices. They targeted a tank, 5 military vehicles, and Zionist forces in various areas. Clashes occurred in Abu Hadaf, northeast of Khan Yunis. The Islamic Jihad movement's military wing detonated an explosive device on a tank and targeted Israeli settlements and industrial zone in Ashkelon with missiles. And on Saturday, 100 humanitarian aid trucks entered the Gaza Strip through the Rafah border crossing with Egypt. The Palestinian Red Crescent received the aid from the Egyptian Red Crescent, which included food, water, relief supplies, medical items, and medicines. Approximately 500,000 displaced Palestinians in Khan Yunis governorate, southern Gaza, are facing harsh conditions due to a lack of basic necessities. The situation is worsened by the Zionist occupation's threat to bomb large areas of the governorate, following warnings to evacuate eastern towns. Let's get more insights with Islam Sid.
Here in Khan Yunis in Gaza, a city which has received the most displaced people, Since the beginning of the Zionist genocide, thousands of Palestinians resort to makeshift tents. Many of them were forced to flee after their homes were completely destroyed by Zionist bombardment.
Our houses are gone. Our property is gone. Our money is gone. Sons have been murdered. Some died. Some handicapped. In the hospital. What is left to cry for? And then they tell us we will get aid. Where is it? Where is it?
Children, women and elderly find themselves trapped in these camps, having to endure unbearable suffering as life essentials they need are far from being acquired daily.
After they brought us from Gaza to Khan Yunis, now they are targeting Khan Yunis. No place safe here, neither in the north nor in the south. These are Jews with no mercy. It's enough we were evacuated from Gaza, and we were humiliated. We saw humiliation and death, and suffered a great deal. It is enough that we left Gaza. We will not leave from here.
It's hard for us to get food and water. Most of my friends were martyred and some others were severely injured. I used to go to school and play with my friends, but now I drop out of school and I gave up everything I used to do.
Relentless Zionist bombardments hit southern Gaza City after the collapse of a truce in the nearly 2-month-old Zionist massacre against Palestinians. However, Gazans are still standing firm, hoping for a better tomorrow for Palestine, which has always been their home, despite the tragic conditions they are being through.
During the occupation forces' dawn raid in Kalkalia, a young Palestinian man, Adnan Issam Kanbar, aged 21, was shot and killed. Zionist forces fired bullets randomly while conducting raids and arrests in Palestinian homes, injuring Kanbar on the western street of the city. Additionally, Ahmad Mustafa Asi, aged 38, lost his life when struck by live bullets while resisting a settler attack under the protection of occupation forces in the town of Karwat, Bani Hassan, west of Salfate. Riyad Mansour, the permanent representative of Palestine to the United Nations, urged the international community to offer protection for the Palestinian people and hold the Zionist occupation accountable for ongoing crimes in the Gaza Strip and other occupied Palestinian territories. In letters to the UN Secretary General, the President of the Security Council, and the President of the UN General Assembly, Mansour criticized the persistent failure of the international community, including the Security Council, to fulfill its responsibilities concerning occupation crimes in Gaza, emphasizing that temporary periods of calm are insufficient. Cuban President Miguel Mario Diaz-Canel criticized the Zionist aggression against Gaza, labeling it as a genocide. During his speech at the 28th Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in Dubai, Diaz-Canel condemned what he referred to as terrorist acts in Gaza, highlighting the international silence surrounding the situation.
I would like to remind you that 2,000 kilometers away from here, that is in Gaza, there is a genocide that occurred. In the name of Cuba, we express in the strongest terms our condemnation of the violence and terrorist acts committed against the Gaza Strip of the occupied Palestine. My office will intensify its efforts to advance its investigations related to this situation. Credible accusations regarding crimes committed during this conflict must be the subject of independent study. An investigation. The investigation has now expanded to include the escalation in hostilities and violence since the attacks that occurred on October 7, 2023. All parties must comply with the international humanitarian law. Unless you do so, do not complain when the situation warrants my office to act.
The prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Karim Khan, pledged on Sunday to escalate investigation efforts into allegations of genocide committed by the Zionist occupation in the Gaza Strip. While concluding his visit to the occupied Palestinian territories, Khan clarified that the nature of the visit was not for investigation, but stated that he had spoken to victims from both sides of the conflict. In mid-November, 5 countries called for an ICC investigation into the alleged genocide committed by the Zionist occupation forces against Palestinians in Gaza. Thousands across the globe took to the streets in protest against the renewed Zionist aggression on the Gaza Strip. Demonstrators gathered with banners condemning the policies of the Zionist entity and the U.S. government towards Gaza and calling for a permanent ceasefire and a boycott of products supporting the Zionist entity. The story is by Sofian Kinturi.
Since the onset of the Zionist aggression on Gaza Strip on the 7th of last October, many countries across the world, although little late, stood in solidarity with Palestinians. Now, after the temporary truce was shattered, many continue to take the street. In Tunis, dozens of children organized a solidarity march, demanding a stop to the Zionist massacres against innocent children. Meanwhile, pro-Palestine demonstrators in the UK continued into their 8th successive weekend, as protesters demanded a ceasefire and an end to the ongoing massacres in Gaza.
It's devastating to see all the children that have been massacred. And yeah, it's just, as far as I'm concerned, something that we need to stand up together within the country to make it clear that what's happening is unacceptable, to pressure our government.
Elsewhere in Europe, people of all ages in France gathered in Paris to call for peace in Gaza. Some wrapped in traditional Palestinian kufaya, waving Palestinian flags and calling for an immediate and permanent ceasefire.
It's important to be here today and to continue because it is not over. And the humanitarian pause was nothing. It was a joke. It was feeding people to bomb them. I mean, it's insane that it continues. And Israel has come out and said they were going to keep bombing for at least two more months. It's not okay, and we are here to say we are not going to let this happen, not under our watch.
Across continents in Mexico, demonstrators carried signs saying "End Genocide" and "Free Palestine" as they marched along one of the most well-known avenues. Meanwhile, Chileans took the streets of Santiago in their cars holding flags and shouting slogans demanding peace for Gazans.
Hopefully, more of us call for sanctions against the terrorist regime of Israel that is massacring our brothers.
It is an international call to hold demonstrations to commemorate this day and to show solidarity with the Palestinian people. And the Palestinian community in Chile did not want to be left behind. And its way of commemorating and showing solidarity with the Palestinian people was through this caravan.
The Middle East wasn't any different. In fact, during the COP28 meeting that was held in Dubai, UAE, pro-Palestinian demonstrators took the opportunity to demand a ceasefire in Gaza, denouncing the silence of many organizations and world leaders present at the event. This highlights the important public global outcry against the heinous Zionist crimes and massacres Palestinians are enduring on a daily basis.
To other news now, Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune presided over the ceremony on Sunday for the 9th edition of the President of the Republic Award for Professional Journalists. This edition focused on the topics of the new Algeria and issues related to food and water security, empowering youth energies and creative abilities, and energy security with its geopolitical dimensions. The ceremony was attended by high-ranking state officials, government members, representatives from Algerian media institutions, and guests from Arab media professionals. Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune has endorsed several measures to indirectly support the Algerian media during the National Press Day and the President of the Republic's Award for Professional Journalists. President Tebboune, represented by the Minister of Communication Mohamed Lagab, announced a reduction in the cost of the Algerian news agency line and a decrease in value-added fees with specific percentages to be determined in the supplementary finance law. Additional measures include a 36% reduction in the cost of hosting websites at Algeria Telecom an increase in capacity and a decrease in rental prices at the press house.
بسبب الاستهداف قررت بهذه المناسبة اتخاذ جملة من التدابير لفائدة الإعلام الوطني.
On this occasion, I decided to take a number of measures for the benefit of the national media as a form of indirect support, the most prominent of which are reducing the cost of the Algerian news agency line for the benefit of the national media. Secondly, reducing the value of value-added fees. Thirdly, reducing the price of the cost of hosting websites at Algeria Telecom by a rate ranging between 33 and 36% with the cultural increase. Fourth, reducing the rental price in the press house. Fifth, naming the press centers in the stadiums after sports journalists. Sixth, a discount on Air Algérie for the benefit of sports journalists covering African competitions. Seventh, assigning the Minister of Communication and the Communications Directorate of the Presidency to prepare a study to relaunch the Press Support Fund. Eighth, assigning the Minister of Communications and the Communications Directorate of the Presidency to prepare a vision for organizing the advertising market. Ninth, assigning the Minister of Communication to find a final solution to the security housing in Sidi Frij.
President Tebboune announced the completion of the legal framework for the media sector with the issuance of laws governing audiovisual as well as print and electronic journalism.
For this purpose, we have completed the law regulating the media, which was issued in the Official Gazette last August, as well as the law on audiovisual, print, and electronic journalism, which both chambers of parliament approved a few days ago. At this moment, it has been published in the Official Gazette and is therefore in effect. The implementing decrees will also be issued soon. Thus, we have completed building the legal system regulating the media sector, followed by the installation of the institutions regulating it. Example, the two authorities for regulating audiovisual media, the authority for regulating the written and electronic press, and the Council of Professional Morals and Ethics.
The 47th Symposium of Spanish Associations supporting the Sahrawi people concluded, focusing on solidarity initiatives. It called on the Spanish Prime Minister to take responsibility in defending the Sahrawi people and completing the decolonization process of its former colony. Here's Salman Al-Sib with the report.
The 47th Conference of the European Coordination for the Support and Solidarity with the Sahrawi People, UCOCO, concluded on Sunday at the Toledo Congress Center in Spain. The conference urged the Spanish Prime Minister to fulfill his responsibilities and take necessary actions, emphasizing Spain's legal, moral and historical obligation to defend the Sahrawi people and complete the decolonization process in the region.
We call on the Prime Minister of Spain, Pedro Sánchez, who stated that his government will recognize the state of Palestine to work and move forward in achieving decolonization in Western Sahara by the recognition of the Sahrawi people's right to their state, the Sahrawi Democratic Republic.
For its part, Algeria confirmed UCOCO discussions boosted support for the Sahrawi cause. The head of the Algerian parliamentary delegation highlighted the session's contribution to the just Sahrawi issue, aligning with international principles. Emphasis was also placed on ending the last African colonialism through UN and AU collaboration.
This conference is an opportunity to affirm that the issue is a decolonization which was registered since 1963 within the non-independent regions. This is what we emphasized on through a parliamentary delegation that participated in the meetings of the UN Fourth Committee concerning special political and decolonization last October. Mr. President Abdelmajid Tebboune renewed Algeria's unconditional support to the issue and to the Sahrawi people, especially in his last speech before the 78th United Nations General Assembly, when he renewed Algeria's aspiration to achieve a final decolonization in the last African colony, where Sahrawi people are still deprived of their political right to self-determination.
In the conference, Milo Tissot emphasized the importance of UN Personal Envoy Staffan de Mistura's role in revitalizing the stalled political dialogue between the conflicting parties, as Morocco's refusal to recognize the Sahrawi people's right to self-determination has hindered progress.
We stress on the need of Secretary General Personal Envoy of the United Nations, Mr. Staffan de Mistura, to play the necessary role to revive the stalled political track because of the continuous Moroccan rejection to the inalienable right of the Sahrawi people to self-determination, to obstruct the path in achieving decolonization in the Sahrawi region according to the norms of international legality and international law, in addition to the betrayal of the Palestinian people and stubbornness to the International Security Council call, especially the call on both parties of the conflict to resume negotiations without preconditions to achieve a just political solution.
The UCOCO conference's final statement, endorsed by 260 participants from various global delegations, strongly reaffirmed support for the just Sahrawi cause. Plans were made to schedule another solidarity event during the upcoming 48th conference in Portugal at the end of November next year.
For more news stories, let's turn into the news in brief by Zahar Fajani.
EU Ambassador to Libya Nicola Orlando recently reiterated support for Libya's unity and stability in a post on X platform. He urged all Libyan parties to join the UN envoy Abdoulaye Batili's initiative to address the country's crisis amid disagreements over elections. After meeting with Libyan Presidential Council head Mohammed al-Manfi in Tripoli, Orlando discussed key topics highlighting the expanding partnership between Libya and the EU. The Somali army conducted the successful security operation in Hiran Governorate, central Somalia, eliminating over 60 members of the Al-Shabaab movement linked to Al-Qaeda. The operation took place in a village southwest of Halagan city, according to the Somali news agency's report on Sunday. The Ukrainian Ministry of Defense reported on Sunday the successful destruction of 12 drones and a cruise missile launched by Russia overnight in Kiev. Ukrainian air defense systems intercepted and destroyed 10 aircraft before reaching their targets. While the cruise missile wasn't destroyed, it also failed to reach its intended destination, with no further details provided by the Air Force. Following the launch of its first military spy satellite last month, North Korea initiated satellite reconnaissance operations on Sunday. The Korean Central News Agency stated that the new Satellite Operations Office, located at the General Control Center of the National Aerospace Technology Administration, has commenced its mission. It will transmit gathered information to the Army Reconnaissance Office and other major units.
The U.S. territory of Guam. The U.S.
Algerian football star Ismail Ben Nasser, the AC Milan midfielder, made a comeback after a prolonged absence from the pitch during the Fiorentina versus AC Milan game in the Italian Calcio on Saturday.
Fans are shouting with praise, clapping with joy as Ismail Ben Nasser returns to the field again, with his club AC Milan playing against Fiorentina. Ben Nasser couldn't participate for many games due to the injury that kept the Algerian player away from the field for months. He was overjoyed to make it to the pitch again.
I don't have the words to express what I feel inside. I can't describe my feeling. I am very happy and proud at the same time. I want to give more. Milan supporters are wonderful. They have always been by my side and by the team as well. And this gives me more strength and desire.
The Italian club's midfielder was absent for nearly 7 months. Nevertheless, he had put double efforts with the medical team for his return to the stadiums after the delicate operation he underwent on his right knee.
I didn't give myself a time frame to come back. After my surgery, they told me the recovery period would be 6 to 8 months, and now I'm back in 6 months and 23 days. I have waited so long for this moment, and I am really happy.
AC Milan midfielder returned to back his club after he marked 5 exceptional seasons with the Calcio champion last season.
There were some difficult times, but they passed quickly. I was always here, connected by heart and soul. The team and I, as a whole, worked very hard for this day. We'll start over.
Following his return to the field, Ismail Ben Nasser and supporters of the Algerian national team are hoping for the player to be ready for the CAN 2024, which will begin next month.
The end of our program. Thank you for watching and take care.